Hello and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor. And today we've got a fellow film enthusiast, film critique, and also a graduate in film ourselves, a young attendee, Anthony Edwards. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. How you doing, Chris?
First off, could I clarify, how do you pronounce your name? Because obviously I can get that wrong straight off the mat.
Oh, it's Anthony. Yeah, the H is silent in my one. Yeah.
There you go.
But,
I'm glad I've clarified straight into there, getting it wrong. There you go. Embarrassed myself already, but that's how it goes on this podcast. We jump straight in. But first question of the day. Seeing as you're a graduate, I'd just like to know. So, how did you get into film, and what excites you about the industry so far?
I think it's like telling stories, which is the main thing, which excites me about film. So it's not just film, just art in general, like books as well, games.
Yeah.
And film itself, it's like a unique medium which you can tell stories, like show, not tell. And it has the same appeal as TV, except TV's obviously more longer. But I think film is probably my favorite of the art mediums. You know, so accessible and so easy to watch, like maximum 3 hours. You know, or you can watch like an hour and a half film, but stuff like that.
It sort of submerses you in a new world, doesn't it? You're sort of disconnected from what's real, and at the same time, you feel like you're part of like you said, a story, and you are. It's like you're taken into the fantasy itself, depending on how well the film is made, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just being transported, like escapism, and you can do all sorts of topics like philosophy and I don't know, ethics, politics, or you can just watch for fun. You know, whatever's your choice.
Which
So many
is
films out there. Yeah,
it sort of it depends on the mood, doesn't it? And I love that because for me personally, I love the fact that film diversity that sort of jumps into so many different genres. So for you, do you have like a director who you would say, obviously you could say your favorite, but also would give you more than one genre?
What? So you're saying a director
Who sort of covers the area? Because obviously we've got directors like Peter Jackson who goes into fantasy and is very, he's sort of a one-track, sort of very, very good at what he does, but he is in that very area, just like Quentin Tarantino is at his sort of grotesque, sort of shoot 'em, kill 'em sort of films at the same time with thriller. Do you have a director in your mind who is your favorite, but also someone who covers a lot of ground?
Oh, off the top of my head, um, Nolan is probably the biggest one out there. He's done a few thrillers. He mainly sticks with time, like he loves his time. But well, he did Dunkirk, which is a war film. And then he's done Insomnia, which is a thriller, like a detective thriller, and then he did obviously The Dark Knight, which is like a superhero. So yeah, his range is pretty broad, but he definitely has a sort of style he keeps with. Obviously time, and obviously all his films kind of clean, and he kind of sticks with the same sort of composer. Was it Hans Zimmer?
Yes, the horns, the French horns specifically.
Yes, yeah, he loves them. Especially
it's the noise, isn't it? It's so just sort of absorbs you straight in. You know it's gonna be a Christopher Nolan film as soon as you hear that sound kick in.
Yeah, it's definitely his hallmark. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, I totally agree, and I love that you brought up Insomnia there. Robin Williams again, sort of stealing the show, even though you've got Al Pacino in the movie.
Yes. Oh, I think that was his third film. I've been his third film, but yeah, I didn't hear about it, and I literally just watched it because of Nolan. But yeah. I think it's one of his top 5 probably.
Mate, totally agree. It's so funny. When you first watched Nolan, did you watch one film and then you went on a sort of rampage into watching one after another, or was it?
Yeah, I did.
You did. Brilliant.
Well, I mean, I think the first sort of films I watched was Batman Begins and obviously Dark Knight.
Yes.
As you do, they are the most popular ones. And then obviously Inception. I think from Inception onwards, I was like, okay, I've got to watch all of them. The only one I haven't actually seen is The Following. That's his
I don't
first
think
ever
I've seen
film.
that. Yeah, that's very. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't know he did that.
that's yeah. It's like a very very low budget, like £90,000 or something like that sort of film.
Really?
But yeah, it's very short actually. It's only like an hour long, but I still haven't seen it. I've seen his short film as well. He made like a uni short film called Doodlebug. Yeah, seen that as well.
I'm gonna have to look that up, mate. That's a new one to me. No, this is why
Oh,
we
what, The
got you on here,
Following?
man.
Yeah.
This is to bring a
Oh,
little
really?
bit of insight, to bring a little bit of
Yeah.
insight into the world. Because it's so easy to just think like, oh yeah, I've seen so many films, I know a load about them. But the best thing about meeting new people and talking to people about film is that you're introduced to new things. I mean, one of my favorites of Nolan's was Memento, and that was through a
Oh,
recommendation of a friend. And I was just blown away by the whole time concept. Like you say, he plays with time like it's like not a problem at all. And for me, I loved that he didn't. He did a lot of showing. He didn't do a lot of telling. There wasn't like sort of we're now in this place. We're now here. It is
yeah.
literally just the camera takes you to this sort of realm of this poor bloke who can't remember
Yeah.
past 30 minutes and is having to sort of traverse his journey of figuring out what's going on. But I'm not going to
Oh,
spoil it for people who are listening or watching because it is an absolute fantastic film that they've got to go watch out there.
oh, brilliant. Have you seen Tenant as well?
I
His
haven't.
latest.
I need to go see that. I'm planning on going seeing that on Wednesday with your brother and a friend of ours, and
Oh, yes.
that should be a lot of fun. But I don't
Yeah.
know how good it's going to be. The reviews are mixed. But
Oh,
something,
yeah.
something I was going to ask you. Do you believe in? Do you look at reviews nowadays? Do you just base a film based off whether you personally like it? Something along those
I
lines.
do look at reviews, but and a wide variety, but I don't actually, go off them. So yeah, we'll see. So and I it's mainly because like obviously you have the Jeremy Johns and Chris Tuppence and all of that. I'm not sure if you know about them as well, but
Are they major critics by chance?
yeah, they are. If people don't know, but
Yeah.
uh, I think they're more like a mainstream opinion instead of like they're more subjective than objective. So
Mm, mm. And so you get a generalized gist, a sort of gist from them, and then and you then make your own opinion based off what you see in the film or how you're.
yeah, it's mainly my opinion of the film, but I always like seeing reviews, see what they think about, and see if they're wrong or right about some certain things.
Yes.
But
Or something that I've been brought up with is probably a negative thing is that a lot of the reviews nowadays they just place a number, and that number doesn't necessarily mean how good the film's going to be nowadays because there's just so many opinions out there on the internet, that there can be, for instance, a very good example of this for the bad reasons was Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
oh,
Fantastic reviews, and everybody hated it basically. And so I was going to get your opinion on that. How did you react when you saw
um,
these reviews and then went and saw the film?
well, it all started with the Force Awakens, right?
Yes.
I was out by the Force Awakens, to be honest. Like, it's like one of those films. The more you think about, the more you kind of see plot holes and errors, and that that doesn't make any sense. But at least Force Awakens had a good start. Like
Yes.
I could definitely say, had a lot of flaws, but it could go in so many directions. And Last Jedi just, I wasn't planning on seeing it as well, and I saw it like 3 or 4 months afterwards, and I was dying of laughter of how bad it was. I was
I love that you
outstanding.
went and saw it after 3 months and didn't get any spoilers and still was laughing at the sort of film
Uh,
itself.
I couldn't believe my eyes. I literally, oh my goodness. Um, And well, I knew it was going to be bad because obviously it's the most polarizing film. Because
Yes.
I heard a lot of my mates did not enjoy it at all. They said, "I'm not even going to see episode 9." People even said, "I was like, oh bloody hell."
Yeah,
So
I can agree with them to an extent. I would say that I found episode 9 redeeming, had a lot of redeeming factors, and I think that's just because J.J. Abrams sort of brought some of the Force Awakens likability. I don't know how to sort of express that, because it was the Force Awakens had a lot of characters who were likable, but there was, like you said, there was a lot of plot holes, and it was, for me, a carbon copy of A New Hope. For me
it
personally.
was, yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was absolutely a carbon copy of New Hope, yeah. But
but
even Last Jedi was like had elements of episode 5 with like
yes,
the Battle of
yeah.
Hoth, and it's just like, oh, it's not Hoth because it's a salt planet, and it's like the guy
we're too silly
lives,
to spot that.
and it's just, oh, of course, but yeah,
Yeah, the sort of, I mean, the desecration, I would like to say, of Luke was the main highlight for me. I don't know if you uh, sort of read into legend or lore behind Luke, but yeah, it was sort of lost for me as soon as I saw what he became.
yeah, it's not even. I'm actually fine with Luke becoming like a hermit and stuff,
Mm.
like but it's just I think the way they did it was so poorly done and executed awfully that it didn't actually make sense. Like, why would he even try and kill his? Oh,
Yeah,
spoilers, by the way.
yeah.
What? Why would you
Spoilers for
either
those
kill
who aren't.
your nephew, like if he's turned to the dark side, but then you would want to save your dad in the previous films, which is like
Yes.
mega evil, and there's not even like a chance. It was
One has
no, not
murdered
good.
children, the other one's having a bad dream. It's like,
Yeah,
which one do
yeah.
we choose? But
Like
let's
he's
move.
literally about to kill his best friend's son, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yes. So,
it's absolute madness, absolute madness. But I think that because there was a difference in director, and you can see this in a lot of films, and is that as soon as there's a sort of mix between creativity, it can just go straight downhill, and it can ruin a movie basically based off who's
yeah.
who's sort of holding the pole for it. I mean, another very good example of that would be what happened to Zack Schneider's role in um, I think it was like Justice League. I think it was Justice League when he lost the directing because he had a
Oh.
bad issue in his own personal life, and
Mm.
another director took over, and it was just like, oh no, this is awful. This is just the worst movie anyone's ever seen. um, but have you actually seen it yourself?
I have seen Justice League, and
You...
I wasn't a fan. As I was bored, wasn't impressed. But for any Zack Snyder fans out there, they are remaking they're doing the director's cut, the Snyder
Yes.
cut for Justice League. That's going to be like 4 hours, is it?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Mini
Something mad.
series. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I'm not excited, but I'm intrigued, and I'm really happy that the fans got what they wanted. So that's the most important thing, I think. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see if
think
it's good. Yeah.
I'm excited about it because I saw what happened with Batman versus Superman, and I saw what happened with Justice League, and I felt like the DC universe kind of needs a little bit of a revamp.
Oh yeah.
And that's probably understating it. There's probably a lot of people out there who are going to be like, "That's just the biggest understatement ever." But Marvel have taken over, and there's a point to how good you can make a movie when your competitor is owned by Disney and their funds are limitless and they have the best sort of cast possible. But apart from talking about big corporations, I wanted to talk about the future of film, seeing as we're in the pandemic. We're currently
Oh
in probably the worst period of time for film because of how important sort of cinemas are to film and the environment. What do you think is going to happen now that we have this sort of virus going on and the future of film from now on?
yeah. Well, I'm not actually sure when the films are going to get, because I think quite a few projects are still delayed.
Mm.
And I'm not sure if you've been to cinemas recently, but they're still quite empty. Like even for Tenet, like opening weekend, they were still really empty. So I was like, so it's not only just the companies making the films, it's also the audiences when they're all going to come back. So at the moment, I think the way forward is streaming, probably like the next year maybe or two. I think Mulan just came out. That's on streaming, Disney Plus, but you have to pay £20 plus not worth it. I wouldn't pay that.
That's intense.
I like films, but not £20 worth. Yeah.
Just to be able to say, be a man. There you go. Oh man, that's crazy. That's
Oh
madness.
yeah. Just £20. Oh, you're a Matt. Great, brilliant. Oh.
There we go. It's got some great songs in it. It's got Mushu. That's fantastic. As somebody who does like a lot of, my childhood was Disney. It's great, but at the same time, that's madness. I had no idea that £20 plus the Disney subscription. That's absolute crazy. But I do get what you're saying with the subscription. For me personally, I hope that people don't just stick to that, because for me, it's going to lose a lot of the human sort of interactivity between cinema and film. The atmosphere of the cinema for me is something I truly enjoy. I don't know about yourself, or if you're more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's obviously been like a huge like battle, hasn't it? Like the theaters, because obviously the prices of the tickets and the and even the food and drinks, just outrageous pricing. But I do like going to cinemas, and even the films themselves. Disney pretty much it's their ground, isn't it? At the moment,
Yes.
Like they own Marvel, Star Wars, they own too much.
They're a conglomerate, yeah.
It's got to the point that there's not many risks at the moment, so we are getting. I don't want to say like samey Marvel films, but
I do know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It can feel. What would you inject into the film industry? What would you like to see then?
Just new films, just no more sequels. Like they're making like a Matrix 4 remakes. Just it seems to be superhero films and remakes. Like I'm not against the superhero films, but it's just you kind of walk into one. It's just like, oh, I know how this is going to end. There's not that many which kind of break new ground. I'm just trying to think of some of the top of my head. Superhero films. Logan was a good example, perhaps. That was a very gritty. Even Deadpool as well, to an extent. But yeah, I guess Endgame and / Infinity War was like, well, they were like the big, big Avengers films, blockbusters. But even I wouldn't even say that they broke new ground too far. Like I wouldn't even like call them like a 10 out of 10 or anything. Those sort of films, but
they're more heartwarmers, aren't they? They are the end of the franchise for a lot of people. For me personally, I won't be going to watch any of the superhero films from now on, because that era for me, has concluded. All of the stuff that I've seen from now on, all of the superheroes who are going to be in the franchise, I don't really care about. For me, Iron Man and Captain America were, the franchise basically.
Yeah, they were the face, and no, I do agree. I told myself that as well. Like, let's say if they all just suck from now on.
Yeah.
Endgame, I thought had quite a nice ending.
Yeah.
So which you can just leave off.
Yeah.
And not only that, with Tony Stark and Captain America, but I don't know what's going to happen with Black Panther.
Yeah.
Now he's,
I think personally, Disney need to just come up with something that will say, let's end the character. I think it would be a nice gesture. I think it would also be something that they'll not make as much money, but there you go. I mean, they can recast the character, but they'll get a lot of hate for it, straight up. They will. It will get, like, if you recast him, there will be a whole bunch of people who will remember what has, come to pass. But back to your point anyway, apart from me grandstanding there, I think that what you're saying about the current scenario within the film industry is totally correct. I think that there's too many superheroes, there's too many sequels. Everybody's trying to basically live in nostalgia. I remember South Park made a whole episode based off how everybody's living in the past and they're just making money off nostalgia and bringing back all of the old stuff. So like Jurassic Park, Star Wars,
Oh.
like all of these ideas that were great for their time, but we need to move on, you know.
We need new ideas, new fresh stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And this sort of innovation is what I'm seeing most is in games rather than films, which is a bit annoying because obviously I love films, but we just need new stories, new big stories. Like, when was the last big original film, which wasn't a
Yeah.
remake or like anything?
You'd have to, for me personally, um, there's a lot of films in the early 2000s that I can think of, but I can't think of anything past 2010, apart from
Yeah.
maybe like Inception, maybe that really broke
Oh, yeah.
new grounds, or maybe even Avatar. Avatar was the last one that was brand new and a new idea.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But I mean,
But they're even making sequels of that now, when Avatar 2 will eventually drop
it's bad.
next decade, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've seen a lot of like smaller creators. Did you see Robert Pattinson's Good Times at all?
I have.
Yeah.
That made me like him as an actor. Yeah, I thought that film was brilliant.
And so for me, I know the two directors who made that film. They're up and coming guys. They're friends of Casey Neistat, so they're originally from YouTube. And
Oh,
so
really? Oh, nice.
they are literally they got funding, and it was not a big budget. And Robert Pattinson like cut his wage in half in order to be on the sort of. He loved the script so much that he wanted to be in it, and that for me is what actors. You know, this is why he is an actor, because he doesn't just do it for the money. He does it because he loves the job. Obviously, you want to get paid, but like you said, we need to put some new, fresh ideas, and sometimes that requires sacrifice. I don't know about. Did you know about Jonah Hill in Wolf of Wall Street at all?
I'm not sure about this story.
So
What was that about?
he, from what I'm aware, he took the bare minimum payment you can take as an actor, so that they could make the film basically with him as in the part.
Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, because quite a big part as well, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
was like he was like one of the main characters, I would say, along with
yeah. So he was
yeah.
the basically what you'd call the Robin to Robert. Sorry,
Yeah,
the
his side guy. Yeah, yeah.
side man to I forgot his name already. That's DiCaprio, of course, DiCaprio. And I just thought to myself, that's so humbling as an actor. Sort of, I thought that was so brilliant of him to as well. So you got two actors there who've, in order to sort of progress their careers, they're willing to take pay cuts in order to progress the creativity behind it. Because as much as Wolf of Wall Street is a good film, I'm not a big fan of the ideas it puts forward, because it's basically sort of running off excess. You know, it's a great film, but it's like, here, look how great excess and sort of, crime is. Enjoy. Like, you'll never be able to do this because you'll go to jail if you do it. But nonetheless, here's excess.
Yeah, it was based off a true story as well, wasn't it, or something like that? And like
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
real
yeah.
guy at the end. You see him, don't you? You
Yeah,
see him
yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of the film. Yeah,
Yeah, Jordan Belfort turns up and he's just like
that's it.
points out to Leonardo DiCaprio, and you're just like, yeah, because that guy needs a break, doesn't he? But like you said, new fresh ideas, new actors. So Robert Pattinson, he's been just. I don't. Have you been watching his work lately after Good Times?
Yes, I saw The Lighthouse as well. Have you
Yes.
seen that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
good.
creepy to say the least.
Yeah, I liked it, but I didn't know what was going on. I'll probably have to see it again because like there are
Yes.
some stuff which, yeah, creepy is a understatement. Yeah.
To me, it was like reading a William Shakespeare novel for the first time. You're like, half these words I don't understand, and I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, I wish I had subtitles on when I was watching it. Yeah,
For Willem
only
Dafoe
me.
alone.
Yeah, like there was so much stuff. Like I think it was just his thick accent. I was only picking out certain things.
Yes,
But
yes.
I think you can follow most of it without without actually understanding what they're saying, because the actions and how it's shown. But
do
yeah,
you
great
see
film.
a lot of the concepts made? So, for instance, that's a Robert Pattinson as an actor and the stuff that he's doing in the films that he's doing. Do you see stuff that you've learned from university in these films? Do you see a lot of the concepts that you've learned from them?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically every choice like a director makes, I always have to think to myself, why did he do that? And um, it's all up to interpretation. So you can have loads of debates with people about it, but yeah, like because one of the things with the lighthouse, it's in 4:3, isn't it? And it's in black and white as well, and that really kind of sets the mood. It's all closed in, and also it's black and white, so it's very depressing, very bleak. Um, yeah, it's films like that which show
Yeah,
what the
rather
film's
than
about.
tell. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So with the 4:3, I like you've brought that up because I spotted that and I was like, why has he sort of brought the size down for the screen? Because obviously it's a big, when you to go to the cinema and see these films. I mean, I didn't get to see it at the cinema, but when you see it, you're looking for this big screen, this sort of environment. Do you think the director was looking for some sort of, I don't know how to say this, but almost like the audience has been enclosed in this small environment, just like the two actors?
Yes, that's why I actually think why the director just chose the 4:3, because like it supports the plot and the story of them two guys alone just losing it on like this lighthouse island pretty much. And I think it works personally. I think it works very well.
Yes.
But there's some directors which just use it just for stylize.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine whatever choice. I'm not sure which director did The Lighthouse.
You know what? I wouldn't be able to tell you either, but he's done a great job, and we'll look it up afterwards. Maybe this is something that I'll just put point here, and it will just come up. There we go. Post editing for me to do. But nonetheless, I like that you brought that up, because do you think that within did you see Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at all?
Yes, I did.
So there was a lot of stylized shots in that film, and storyline's brilliant. For me personally, I loved it. But there was a lot of stuff in there that I was like, huh, what's that there for? I don't see a reason for this sort of part of the movie and these sort of characters to be in here. Specifically Margot Robbie's character. Love her, she's beautiful, but it's like, what was the point in her being here? And it turns out, I'm not going to spoil this for people, but there is context behind her character. But he does so much showing and no telling that you don't actually understand the actual story itself. So I came out this movie and I was like, okay, I think I know. If I hadn't looked this up beforehand, I wouldn't have understood this movie. So did you watch it and were you confused at the end, or did you find that it all came together for you?
Yeah, the first 2/3, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like there wasn't a plot at all, and you're just watching this film, and it's quite a long film as well, and you're waiting for something to happen, and something's going to drop, but you have no idea like it's more like a slice of life. The first 2/3, and just like him working in a business, and as you said, Margot Robbie's character was just there. She was like, I think she went in a cinema at one point.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay, what's the point of that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then by the climax, you're like, of course. And it does, I would say, you probably need some information about the era before you go in, possibly. Like was huge, especially this is like a Hollywood thing as well. So a lot of my film mates were talking about this even before the film came out. yeah, and hence why it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like a whimsical what if scenario of a true story which happened. But yeah, that film is very stylized, especially with the scene where he was like with the camera. I can't remember.
I'm thinking
where he
for
was like
me
the
personally,
cowboy bit.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where he's got the shot on the wheel, and then it goes from the wheel, and it sort of zooms out for him to sort of, you see the guy on the horse, and then you go straight to him running down the hill, and then it goes, and you see the car drive off, and it's that movement of the camera that sort of shakes your perspective, doesn't it? Or maybe I've got that wrong. I don't know how you saw it personally.
Oh no, yeah, it's just again, like there's so much to talk about in Once Upon a Time for because Quentin Tarantino himself is known for being the most stylized, or one of the most, it's just he just does what he wants. Like him and Nolan are probably like most paid directors. It wouldn't surprise me, and they can just do whatever they want. Yeah, so these crazy ideas and movements, cameras and colors and stories. Yeah, incredible.
Oh, I love him. I think that film for me, although if there was just a tiny bit of context, like you said, if you'd just been given some small snippet of an idea behind what was going on, that film would have been seamless, and we would have all been like, wow, that's the most stylish film that sort of summarizes. But maybe he didn't want it that way, and we're just interpreting it in a way that he was like, what are you talking about? I gave you everything.
Yeah.
But we've talked about sort of some of these bigger films. Are there any sort of smaller films that you think within the last 10 years that sort of come to mind, and you're like, wow, this is something that I do want to see more in film?
Oh, there was a film called Primer. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
Oh, no.
And it's very low budget, $5,000 budget.
Wow.
But basically, there's a lot of influence from Primer in Tenet, I should say.
Mm.
So, and that's to do with time as well. And I've seen it 6 times, and I still don't get it. That's how it's one of those films. And multiple different timelines and stuff happening off screen in Primer, but it's a massive cult film, made like $500,000 back. Yeah, so on a $5,000 budget, that's amazing. So
that reminds me of Kevin Smith's Shop film. It's based in the 90s, Clerks. If you've ever watched Clerks.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Clerks. Yeah.
And that sort of low budget, and it's just that little bit of sarcastic humor with silly stuff in there. And obviously, Primer sounds like a lot more serious in how they've taken the film, but this, I love the small budget, and then they make a profit out of it, because that's not always the case.
But yeah, Clerks made him actually, didn't it? Yeah, that was his first film.
He's been living off it ever since.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, he's made a few other films. But
but they're like, I think which ones that he gets Ben Affleck, and who's the other person? Oh, it's like, but Good Will Hunting. Who's the guy who plays Good Will Hunting?
Matt Damon.
He gets Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to be in like all of his films as like side characters, and he just does cameos. It's great. So I do like that part of it, of using these, because they were friends originally from Boston, and I do like that.
Oh, what were they? Oh, Small World.
Yeah, man. It's crazy how directors like that, they meet these guys and they're like in their early days. And I love the story behind Good Will Hunting, because that's also very low budget, but they managed to persuade Robin Williams to come on the film as like this big, because at the time Robin Williams was massive, just the biggest comedian in the world. And so for me, these sort of smaller films that eventually make it, it's not always the case, but they do make the director that they, like you say, have just sort of created their careers. It's like, did you ever watch Ip Man at all?
I have seen it, man.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
made Donnie Yen's career basically. Like he obviously had stuff
absolutely.
beforehand, but there wasn't a lot of budget in the first film, and you can see that because of the lack of shots made and the amount of sort of stunt doubles there are in the film.
Mm.
And you know, obviously since then they've been cruising off Ip Man for like 3 other films.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a good example of not using sequels, but you know what I mean. It's impressive to see how creativity, when done right in the first film, can actually sort of lead to the person's career shooting off. But
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I was wondering to myself, you brought up a really nice sort of interesting sort of smaller film here. Do you think that that's going to be continuing? And will that be possible for people from now on?
I hope so. I really do.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Probably not straight away because of the financial crisis which is going
Hmm.
on, but I can definitely see a lot of smaller budgeted films coming up, uh, especially that I believe, yeah, all the big six, which is like Disney and Fox, all that. You know, they're losing revenue across the board. Plus, they're getting a bit samey with their films, as we talked about. So, yeah, I can definitely see small little indie films coming up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, if they're good, they're good. Yeah, so and we should support it. So yeah, that'd be great.
What would you do to do you have any ideas of how you would you want to be a part of that? Would you want to be a part of these sort of indie small films, or would you rather get some experience in a bigger film first?
Oh, well, they're both like a double-edged sword, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to choose which, because you're obviously gonna have more freedom with the indie film,
Mm.
but um, it really matters if it propels off, as well as your budget's going to be tiny, so there's going to be aspects of your film which is not going to be good at all.
Yes.
But with a bigger budget, yeah, you got so much more freedom, but you're only going to get that freedom if you're established. So you probably have to make these, I don't know, sell out movies, as some directors say. Yeah.
AKA michaelbay.com.
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
But
yes.
I do what you
Yeah.
see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Uh,
But to choose which one, I'm not really sure actually, to be honest. So it's probably gonna have to be the indie one.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I think that it would be nice to whenever I watch behind the scenes, for instance, behind a lot of some of the bigger films like Lord of the Rings, and some of the earlier like 90s films, when there was a sort of camaraderie in the sort of department, so you'd be able to see all of this going on, the sort of mechanics going behind it. There was this, there wasn't a lot of Hollywood, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. There wasn't a lot of this actor's so big that you can't talk to them. You can't like go up to them. There was this sort of everyone is the same. And I think one of my favorite actors of all time, not just because he played Aragon, but because of how he sort of shows himself to other people, is Viggo Mortensen, because he's happy to talk to the hair and makeup person and treat them like they're just as equal as talking to Sean Bean in the other room.
As it should be, yeah,
As it
absolutely.
should be,
Yeah.
as it should be. And when you're on an indie film, that's the case, isn't it? Is that everybody's trying to work to get this sort of picture alive. And I saw this recently for the first time in a while, is that Parasite got the Oscar, didn't it? And
Oh,
I was blown away by the fact that for the first time in something like 10 years, we'd seen something outside of Western culture get appreciated. So I was wondering, have you seen, are you somebody who goes out your way to go see Eastern European or Asian films?
um, I do, but only the big ones, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
so I've seen a lot. So Train to Busan is quite famous in South Korea.
fantastic film. Yep,
Oh, you've seen that as well, yeah.
love it. One
Old
of my
Boy,
favorites. Yep, absolute killer.
yeah. Obviously, forgot his name now. The man who made Spirited Away, his little
Yes,
collection of films.
Hayao Miyazaki.
That's it. That's it.
Spirited was away is what I was ensuing when I was saying about first time in 10 years, because that was the
Oh, yeah, of
only other
course.
film the Academy's recognised from Asia, basically,
Mm.
which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's audiences don't like the subtitles, but there are a few which the best ones, I say, break through. Like I thought Parasite deserved it 100%.
Yes.
Incredible film. Love it.
Yeah, I loved. The thing is about films is like, because we know we've got people listening and watching, is that you don't want to spoil it for one. So definitely, if you come back on again, I want to have us go through a couple of specific films and we can dissect them together in a group, because I've got a couple of other guys who are as enthusiastic as you are in these sort of things. But I was going to ask, did you ever watch this is terrible, I should know the name of this film and I've forgotten it off the top of my head, but it was like a tower block where the guys went through as policemen, and
Oh, The Raid.
The Raid, thank you so much. And Raid 1
Yeah.
and 2 were just as good as each other. So it was the first sort of
Yes.
sequel that was just as good. And I was wondering, when you see the action scenes behind that, do you think to yourself, what comes to mind when compared to Western civilization action movies?
Just how raw it is. Like the camera can be on for like a minute and they're just doing all these kung fu moves, and you're like, wow, it's actual actors doing it instead of like quick cuts and stuntmen. You know, they had to hide the face of the actor, but no, it's the actual kung fu master doing all this sort of stuff. But what surprised me about The Raid as well is made by a Welsh director.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it?
I was like, oh, it's bloody hell, man. But which makes me think he probably had the same kind of thought, like, oh, I want to make a film with like kung fu masters, you know,
yeah,
with a police raid, but I can't do it with Western actors. So
it's
does
true.
it over in the East. Yeah,
I totally agree, because if you watch a movie like Taken, for instance, where Liam Neeson, every time he's in a fight, there's a cut for every single move he does, and it's just terrible just because of that alone.
no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's so common now. It's just,
yeah, do you remember in the early days when there wasn't that sort of, the ability to do that? So it's only with technology's progressed that we've seen this sort of lackadaisical feel to film, almost, where anyone can do anything but through sort of a green screen or cuts. Do you think that should we rely on that as much still?
I wouldn't say not as a crutch, but as like how would I put it? What word am I trying to find? Supplement.
Yes, I like that. A supplement. Yeah, because almost like the human body needs its, potatoes and mince and all the proteins and stuff, and then the green screen is just something that you should be getting from the main meat and potatoes, but you're gonna get it from this supplement, not in a good way, but it should be sort of coming. I like that. Do you think that what do you see the future then in these sort of more practical based films? Because a good example that I'll give you as a sort of talking point is Mad Max Fury Road by Miller. Do you think that is the future rather than green screen?
I hope it's the future, because that film was so mind blowing. It still holds. I mean, it still holds up, but it's like 5 years old. But I really hope it is, but I doubt it, because there hasn't been a film which has blended practical and CGI as well as Mad Max Fury Road. Like them using all the cars and all their actual actors on the cars and all the trucks, and it's just mind blowing. It's so much better than CGI. Actual stuntmen doing all these tricks. Oh, it's brilliant. But yeah, I doubt we're going to see it. I think we're going to get more CGI and.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sadly, I think you're right in saying that. And I remember seeing that film with my dad, and both like you, we were both blown away. We were just like, "Wow, this is crazy!" It was like Dredd. Did you ever watch the new Dredd?
I've seen Dredd.
Carl Urban.
Yeah. I have seen that. Oh,
And
that's really similar to The Raid as well, isn't it? Yeah.
it is, but for the first time, we have a Western movie where the action is no longer cutscenes. It's
Mm.
brutal, it's raw, and it has a lot of tension in it where, you're not feeling like you're going to be sort of, what's the word? Censored, I think, is the word I'm looking for, in the sense of how Western movies do that nowadays. So I think what I'm trying to get at here is that although maybe we won't find that the majority of film will be, but I'm hoping that as yourself and myself get older, that we're going to be reviewing these films where we see still these great directors go in and try and put some practicality in there from time to time, and we get these small
Absolutely.
gems that aren't always on Netflix, but you have to go searching for them.
Mm.
But it's
No,
hard.
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Hmm, it's
Like
hard
you
to
saw
say.
some bits in Force Awakens and even The Last Jedi were like practical effects, but they mainly did that because of the fans' outcry from the prequels. Obviously, there was too much CGI in the prequels, and then, well, apart from that mainstream one, I can't think of any other else which used mainly practical effects as well as as good of a job as Mad Max Fury Road. Like I can't really think of
Yeah,
can't think
and
of a
it's
film.
crazy, isn't it? Because you
Mm.
compare that film, which is 2015, which still has the ability to use green screen, and you compare it
Mm.
to Matrix, the original, where we're in the 90s, and they combine both, and they look very similar in how they've had this ability to stay relevant, and yet we've got a 2015 film that has still realized, oh, we can still take that raw 90s look and put it today. So it's hard to say whether that could happen again, but who knows, I'm hoping so.
Mm. Yeah, I'm optimistic, but we will see. We will see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
As a young sort of, did you made a film for your final year project, didn't you, with your degree?
Oh yeah, yeah, documentary. Yeah.
You made a documentary. Are you more into the documentary side of things, or are you actually into the film sort of?
Oh, I'll say film, but the opportunity of the documentary because it was like a group thing. Um,
Yes.
it was a great project that we did, and it was it was too good to give up. So we decided to do a documentary, and yeah, it paid off in the end. Got a first though on the documentary, so
Oh,
happy about that.
congrats, mate. Oh, well
Oh,
played.
thank you. Yeah.
No, I had
But
no
yeah,
idea. I
it's
should know these things.
yeah, but yeah, I was super happy with the result, and but I would definitely say I'm more into the film aspects. Like
Yeah.
I like making up my own worlds and stories rather than
Yes. So,
real life. Oh,
we've gone over so much here in the film, and one thing I have sort of skipped over a little bit is where you see. So you've talked a lot about how well gaming's been structured. We haven't mentioned is what would you take from gaming and sort of put it into the film industry?
the freedom the developers mostly give to their studios.
Mm.
So you see a lot of interesting titles released with interesting worlds and characters, and also they're given a lot of time to make their games. Apologies. Um, Obviously, this doesn't happen to all of them. Like EA is pretty bad. Like uh, their hands are just straight in it. That's probably what I'm seeing with film companies right now. Like their hands is like they're trying to appease as many people as possible, but you can't really do that because you're
I
going to
see
appease
them
no one.
as appeasing my what I call the social justice warrior of today. Very,
Oh,
very common thing to be seen nowadays is that we always hear the loud voices of these wants and needs, but they're not really necessary. And the true, you know, gems like you've just described there, they take the longer time, they take the strength to say no to, which is probably, I imagine, in their position extremely tough to do, because when you've got um like these high up directors, these high up sort of senior people who care about their shares and their stocks more than they do about the making of the film itself. As we saw with many of the films that have been just thrown money at them and not had it come out. So you've said time and you've said creativity there. What else about the gaming? Because I think that if there's one thing in common with films and games is they're immersive. Is there something
Yes.
more that can be added to film?
I would definitely say the market itself. If an indie game on Steam is really, really good, it could sell more than a AAA product.
Fall Guys,
it could
yes.
sell Fall Guys, tens of millions. Like this game, which literally came out of nowhere. That's literally the perfect example. Like that is the epitome of an indie game.
Yes.
And it's sold so much. Oh, the amount of people playing on Steam is like 150,000 average every day.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Fantastic
and
marketing.
Then and I don't really see that happening with film because the film has to be exceptionally good. Like, because with Fall Guys, it's the concept and the mechanics which kind of make it as well. Like, it's basically a Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah,
I would say as a game, which is I can't believe no one has ever thought like until now. But,
yeah, because everybody loves that environment. Everybody loved the silliness, the raw aspect of people falling over and trying to get to the end and winning. So I totally agree there.
Absolutely. And they had a minuscule budget, but if you have a minuscule budget on a film, there's only certain things you can do. Like you can't really make a sci-fi film. Actually, well, you could, but the effects are not going to be as good. You know, your actors probably not going to be, you know, Brad Pitt or anything. But
yeah. I think it was a couple of YouTubers who made, I want to say Headshot. It's not Headshot. It's a first-person film where the guy is part sort of machine and he goes on a rampage of killing basically, and it's all first.
Oh, Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry. Thank you so much. It's made by a couple of Russian guys, and that was low budget. And at the time, you know, they just went with it, and it sold quite well at the time. I remember.
Yes,
you have the ability to do it, but like you said, I'm going to highlight that the community drove that game to move forward. The community did it.
For example, Fall Guys right now is on top sellers on Steam, and the people which look at Steam every day, they're like, "Oh, what's this?" You know, it's just every game feels the same. They're all not the same level field, but in the movie industry, it's more about, you know, marketing and like the amount of money which goes into marketing. Like, it's usually the cost of the film itself which goes in marketing, so that could be hundreds of millions itself. So if you put it that way, it's just to make that money back from an indie film is going to be quite hard, more difficult.
I totally agree, but I think that there's one key aspect there that you've highlighted that is something that should probably die with what's happening coronavirus here, is how they market and how they do things. So celebrities going on these talk shows and going on these sort of old school networks, it's not a good idea anymore. Posters on walls don't work. We need to have the presence, like you've seen with Fall Guys in Steam, a very realistic sort of way of doing that. And you see how many views go on YouTube. If you go onto YouTube and you watch a trailer, the trailer just zooms up. Like with Tenet, it was just insane. Like the sort of views increase massively. But in order to get that traction, they need to also invest into, I think, into YouTube, Steam, stuff like that, very different platforms. So maybe that could be the way forward. But who knows really? I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, no, that's another good point actually. With films, when you have trailers, it's like a minute or two of the film, and you're kind of like, oh, should I go watch it? Should I not? But with Fall Guys, you can literally watch all the maps, everything. You know, well, not just Fall Guys, just any game you want. You can see the entirety of the game, just like a let's play.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I want to get that. So yeah, it's quite hard. It is quite hard for film industry compared to
It
that sort
is.
of medium.
Yeah, because there's no interactivity. So
Mm,
there's this sort of you're just watching, and so they can't just place it and allow people to use the copyrighted version as a watch
yeah.
with other people. Or maybe but maybe that's what they should be doing. Maybe there should be a way to have Twitch, YouTube, all of these platforms have the movie available within YouTubers, and subscribers have to pay to get into this sort of watch with. But who knows?
I
This
could
is me
see that. I
making
could see that.
stuff on the spot.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, more stuff like that. Yeah, like you just watch it with like a Twitch streamer, or you could watch it with like I don't know, director of the film. They like they're like pausing it and they're taking notes from the chat. Yeah, yeah. I think you are right about the interactivity. That could be really interesting. But they actually did that with. Well, they tried to do that with Fortnite and Star Wars. I'm not sure if you heard about this.
I did not know. Do
How
tell.
so J.J. Abrams went on Fortnite and like he did like an event with I can't remember who he did it with, but there was an exclusive clip to Fortnite which was integral to the latest Star Wars film, and you could only find it in Fortnite. And it's basically the message that Palpatine is returning. It was that message playing in Fortnite.
No. Oh, I did
Yeah,
hear about this. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's so
You
bad.
just hear about that and you're like, oh dear. But
Yeah, I mean, that's the wrong audience for me personally. You got to know your
yeah,
audience. You're not going to see the problem is that the people who watch the prequels are now either in their mid 20s or mid 30s. And so is anyone from the age of 25 to 35 going to be playing Fortnite? I very highly doubt it.
yeah, it's
That
mainly
is,
kids.
it's
Yeah,
exactly, it's mainly kids. So maybe the demographic they should have been looking for is either, Call of Duty, or something, or FIFA or something along those lines, or even any Steam game, basically, because the majority of sort of multiplayer or sort of squadron controlled games, RPGs, are made by people or played by people who are above the age of 20 and above, which would have been the correct demographic. But again, you've highlighted something really important there, mate, is that getting that marketing correct and understanding who you're speaking to can either make or break a film. And that is a key piece of information they've
yeah,
missed
it
out
is.
there. Like really key.
The amount of people which don't even know about that key information is just ridiculous as well. But
Well, they start off the movie by saying Palpatine's returned, and you're like, what?
yeah,
Has he?
like,
How? What?
oh, I thought he died. It's like, yeah, exactly. But no, he's a clone apparently, or
Oh,
yeah,
I've watched it like 3 times, so don't worry about me. I'm more worried about people listening or watching if they see a
oh
spoiler.
yeah, spoilers.
But nonetheless, I do see what you mean about that, and I would say Star Wars especially. There's so much legend and canon information that was just disregarded in the films that could have made them so much better, and they decided to just bring in an old bad guy just to be able to save the franchise, and that can be a very common thing. But apart from us going over and over about Star Wars, and I love talking about it anyway, but I would love to know what would be your favorite movie, and obviously we can't say 2020, but what would be your favorite movie of the past 5 to 10 years, because we've talked about how hard it is to determine that.
Ooh, favorite movie past 5-10 years.
Hmm.
Mad Max was definitely up there. I would
Hmm.
definitely say. Just I was surprised of how good it was in the cinema.
Yes.
Inception.
Yes.
I rewatched that the other day. That's like another really good film. It's just this element of how he uses time, and this new thing about dreams, and a great cliffhanger ending. Well, you know what I mean, don't you?
I do. Yeah, 100%. And I think that
Yeah.
the subtlety behind that was fantastic.
Any other films?
Yeah. What other films?
I guess Joker was really interesting.
It was.
Yeah.
That poses another question for me, for you, is that does Joker reflect today's society?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a big meme about that, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
but there are definitely a few things in Joker which is relevant to today. I would definitely say. Especially the talk hosts, how they're all fake. That's 100% true. I've been saying that for years. But
Well, they're getting cancelled, mate, so don't worry about it.
yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. But,
there can only be one, and there can only be one, just like in Highlander.
oh yeah, one talk show host. Yeah. But because it talks a lot about mental health as well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And how people react to it. And I was honestly surprised of how good it was, and because I wasn't actually planning to see it as well.
Oh, right.
Because I like the idea of Joker being like a mystery, his past being a mystery.
Yes.
And them just explaining it, I was like, oh no, I can't be asked for that. And then everyone started saying, oh, it's amazing, amazing film of the year. And I was like, oh, might have to check it out. And yeah, it was brilliant, brilliant. Great acting by Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. He for me is one of my favorite actors, just because he doesn't really care what project he works on. I don't know if you saw Inherent Vice at all, but that was a fantastic film of 2015 that was just sort of went under the radar of a lot of people. Nobody really saw it, but it
I
was
haven't seen that one.
a lot of fun. And he's just a fantastic actor who just does it for the craft. Although a lot of people mistake him for being extremely intense, but I think he just doesn't really have time for the marketing side of things. So when he's in an interview with a guy in a studio, he just takes the piss the entire time and just acts really serious.
Oh yes, I've seen it. I think I've seen a few of those. Like I think he had one with Joker, an interview where he just walked out, or something like that. Yeah.
To be fair to him, if I was in that position, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't take him seriously, these press junkets either.
No, they're asking, terrible questions. I mean, oh no, I agree. Yeah. So
if I give you this last question, here we go. If you had a question to ask to your favorite director, Christopher Nolan, and you had 5 minutes to ask him, what would be that question, and how would you sort of get him to give that answer?
Let you make another Batman film.
Yes, I love it.
He probably won't. He likes his trilogy. Well, he's made one trilogy, hasn't he?
Yes.
But I would say, what is your biggest influence and why? It's probably because where he gets his ideas from. It's just again like the whole dreams and the whole time and Memento. Just the ideas of just going backwards in Memento, and even in Tenet. I won't spoil it, but he messes with timelines in that as well. It's a cliche answer, but I do want to know. So
nonetheless, mate. Dude, this is all about sort of expressing yourself, getting ideas out in the air, and the sort of just, if you want to know something from someone, you go get it. There's no sort of way about it. There's definitely some sort of, I think some of the best directors, that's what they do. And as you've described in this podcast, is that the two highest paid guys are the guys who don't really care what other people think. They just go with their theme and they stick with it. So wanting to know what inspires these guys is like the secret sauce to be able to understand how the movies are that good. So for me, I think that's a perfect ending to the podcast. I think you've sort of brought together so many sort of aspects of what the industry needs to change in, mate. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed the talk today. I mean, I love films. Talking about films. It's nice to see you again as well.
Yeah. Let's do this again. Get you back on. We're gonna do we'll do another sort of joint podcast with other people so that we can have like a one specific film that we can just sort of grind some analysis into. And I think that'd be good. So we'll end it here. This has been a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and we'll hopefully see you again next week with once again, thank you, Anthony, and see ya.